Cat Cafe, and welcome to my first review video. I am the nerdy Neko, but you can just call me Neko for short. Today, we're taking a look at the 2019 film Alita Battle Angel, a film that had been stuck in developmental heck for decades. The project began when beloved filmmaker James Cameron was shown an OVA, also known as an original video animation called Gluno, Rusty Angel, by his friend Guillermo del Toro. If I am mispronouncing that, I am very sorry. This film was based off of the manga Gluno, meaning literally gun dream, written by Yukito Kishida. This animation told the story of a young cyborg girl with amnesia who was found by a Dr. Ida. As her battles go on, she starts to get flashbacks of her previous life and begins a journey of self-discovery. James Cameron was charmed by this story and decided to buy the rights from Yukito Kishida back in the 90s to make a live-action adaptation, which he hoped his daughter would enjoy. However, it took many years for any production to begin. Technology to make a photorealistic anime girl come to life wasn't quite there yet. Cameron ended up getting too busy with his Avatar franchise, so he ended up handing the project to Robert Rodriguez. After some delays, it finally released in February 2019 with mixed reviews from critics and high praise from the average filmgoer. I remember seeing the trailers to this movie back in December of 2018 and thinking, "Ooh, who is this? Why does she have big eyes? I'm intrigued." Well, let's go figure it out together, shall we? After being shown a post-apocalyptic Fox logo, we are briefly told that this story takes place in the year 2563, after a disaster called the Fall. We start out in the junkyard in Iron City. There, we are introduced to Dyson Ito, originally named Daisuke in the manga, played by Christoph Waltz. Ito is a doctor for cyborgs looking for spare parts. And right off the bat, this live action is pretty much a straight-up recreation of the beginning in both the Rusty Angel OVA and the manga's first chapter. Like, no wonder people say this is the best live-action anime so far. And I have to agree, the attention to details, some which may seem insignificant, is honestly impressive. It really shows just how much James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez love Yukito's work. Soon enough, Ito runs across something strange. When he goes up to it, he discovers that it's a cyborg girl who is still alive. And with that, he brings her to his home and gives her a new body, which he very conveniently had at hand. And it fits her perfectly. Next, we cut to our main character waking up, Alita, played by Rosa Salazar. At first, she seems pretty bamboozled by this new body and simply admires the craftsmanship behind it. And then she goes squish. And this is where the VFX really starts to shine. Seriously, I remember watching the trailer and I was so intrigued. I didn't even know the girl was entirely CGI. I thought she was real, but like just had some kind of anime filter on her. Like the detail was amazing. You can see her pupils dilating and contracting. Like, look at her floof. I want to give her head pats. And her nostrils, they move like real nostrils. She has pores. The way the light shines over those big manga eyes and through her doll-like body. Heck, you can even look up close to see that Alita has a scar over her nose, just like Rosa Salazar does. Now you may be wondering, why the heck did they even give her those big anime eyes? Well, I'm so glad you asked, even if you didn't. Well, James Cameron always found her big anime eyes iconic, even if they weren't that unique in the anime genre. So, he decided to recreate that anime look in live action. In fact, that's why it took so long for this movie to be made in the first place, to make sure that the effects were just realistic enough without giving the uncanny valley effect. After one of the earlier trailers led to controversy with her big eyes and is creeping people out, you want to know what is responsible is make them bigger. Yup, he wanted them to make the irises bigger. And you know what? I say it worked pretty well. So, what's so bad about anime eyes, Huh? Then she grabs some clothes. While her new dad, Doc Ito, is working on doing some repairs for a patient, she sneaks down the stairs to see what the heck is going on. Like the daddy is, Doc Ito makes sure that she isn't having any symptoms and makes sure she is well fed. Not being familiar with this world, she doesn't eat the orange properly. Okay, am I the only one who's wondering why he just let her eat the peel? Or me? I guess that is the dad thing to do though. The two talk and discover that Alita has no memories, but like the wholesome dad he is, Doc Ito tells her to look at the bright hindsight. She's still alive and everything's working. But come on, I barely started and I already feel like crying, man. Now, I am aware that the main character having lost memories and being basically a fish out of water is kind of a cliche in cyberpunk media. Some people even find it problematic because they think it makes Alita infantilized in this movie. I'd like to point out that she fell from, who knows how high, you know, like in the atmosphere. And she has amnesia. Also, she starts out in the manga super young. Like, she looks maybe like 13. And people literally call her a little girl. And in the movie, Ito says she still has the brain of a teenager. So, yeah, it makes sense. She starts out as a child. She doesn't stay that way through the whole film. She isn't helpless. Next, Alita is brought out to Iron City. A relatable moment from Alita. Alita asks Ito to give her a name, so he decides to name her Alita. Now, if you've read the manga, you may know that in that version, he basically named her after his dead cat. Not sure how to feel about that one. Also, fun fact, did you know her name was originally Gally, or Golly? But it was later changed to Alita. Probably James Cameron's doing. Anyway, she loves the name and gives him a big hug. Absolutely precious. They walk through the city and there's so many interesting characters in the background. Like there's a violent sport called Motorball, which is kind of a mixture of roller derby and battle royale, I guess. And we run into yet another adorable scene where Alita tries to feed a poor dog some of her burrito. Then she hugs him and kisses her face, and it's just adorable. Next, a robot comes up and nearly crashes into both Alita and the dog. But generic love interest, aka Hugo, pushes her out of the way and she saves him at the last minute, bamboozling said love interest with her acrobatic moves. Hugo moves up and helps her up, and then he says this.
Oh, you're heavy.
Yeah, that would be my reaction too. You sure know how to talk to a girl, Hugo. Real charmer right there. 10 out of 10. The next day, Alita goes exploring again, but she's stopped by a mysterious woman named Shiren, Ito's ex-wife, who was originally not in the manga, but she was in the OVA. She stops Alita and recognizes her body. Shiren and Ito talk, and it turns out the body originally belonged to her late daughter. Yeah, I guess that is the more meaningful origin of Alita's name than from a dead cat, though, so good change, movie. Good change. Next, Alita runs into some 27-year-olds, I mean kid, who are playing basically the 100% human version of Motorball. She finds Hugo there and he invites her to play with them. Then we're introduced to Hugo's friends Cleome and Tanji. Fun fact, in the manga, at this point in time, Cleome was just a baby. So yeah, that's an interesting change, but I guess it makes sense. They kind of needed more female characters. She doesn't really do much in this movie, but she does become a much more important character later in the manga. She finally gets the ball, but then Tanji knocks her over and makes her angry. And rightfully so. What a jerk. Yeah, you can tell Cleome is just like, bruh. They go another round, and I'm sorry, that is not a teenager. So they go another round, this time Alita gets her revenge. Then she wins the game. So Hugo and Allie continue to hang out for a little, and get another adorable scene when he shows her the beauty. That is chocolate. Fun fact, did you know that Robert Rodriguez made that chocolate himself? And he only made one too, so those Rosa got it in one take. The next day, Alita hangs out with Hugo again, and he tells her she needs to focus on her dream. They go up to the top of a building and look at the sky city above them called Solomon. Hugo tells her that he plans on going up there in the hopes of something better than Iron City below. Now, I'm not gonna lie, they really watered down Hugo in this adaptation. He's kind of just your average young adult love interest here. In the manga, he's a 14-year-old troublemaking brat with the soft side. Clever and mischievous. Way more interesting than what we're given here. He also had more of a tragic backstory. In the manga, his big brother was
unalive
for using a hot air balloon to try and get this on. But I can understand if they had to cut out a bunch of stuff due to runtime. I mean, the movie is already over 2 hours long. That's why it's it's taking so long to make this video. Yuko then tells her that she has to have come from Zalem since Ito found her in the scrapyard. That night, when she's going to sleep, she notices that Doc Ito has left the house. Also, look how grumpy she is. She decides to follow him, finding that he's following a mysterious woman. A very fashionable woman, might I add. Next, we see Ito put together a giant rocket hammer. Anime logic. When Alita sees this, she jumps down and tries to stop him. But it turns out that this whole thing was a trap. They are introduced to a one-eyed cyborg named Gruishka. Alita finds out that Ito is something called a hunter warrior, a bounty hunter that hunts down cyborgs. So when this Joker duel pops up, and Ito fights him. And it turns out that Ito is kind of a hardcore old fart, but then he gets injured and drops the hammer. Oh, ain't that a lady's back? Turns out she's a cyborg too. And Ito tells Alita to run, but she runs in the wrong direction and instead kicks some cyborg butt, easily beating that Joker guy to a pulp. Then the cyborg woman and Alita have a fight, and she ends up defeating her too. Really is a dynamic and impressive action scene. All the different angles and cool choreography, it's just mwah, chef's kiss. Next, we have our main villain of the movie stepping up. In the middle of battle, she has a flashback about fighting in the war and discovers that she was a soldier, referred to as 99. Going back to the present, she kicks through Gruishka's arm and breaks it, then grabs the rocket hammer and tries to finish him off. But he slips away before she can. Ito and Alita head to the factory while he explains to her that Zalem pays the hunter warriors to get rid of criminals. He goes into the factory and turns in his bounties. They go back home and he tells her that his biological daughter of the same name was
unalive
by cyborg. Next we have Alita cuddling a mushroom plushie, and then she practices her epic ninja moves. Later, Alita and friends go outside the city and explore again. They tell her about the war and about how the enemy of Earth was the the United Republic of Mars. They then find a fallen spaceship. Alita goes inside and finds the body of an berserker, which she brings back home. She asks Ito to help connect her to it, since it can help her understand herself as well as help her fight Gruishka. But he refuses, saying that his body was meant to be a weapon. He heads back to the factory and signs up to be a hunter warrior, all while wearing that iconic coat. Then they go to the Kansas bar, where all the bounty hunters hang out, where they run across a Pan, another hunter warrior. Except he's kind of a jerk. Alita then asks the cyborgs to help her fight Gruishka, but they all just laugh at her instead like a bunch of heckin' hooligans.
Bruh, look at this dude.
The Pan then offers to be her mentor and give her a drink, but then she says this.
And what could I learn from a loudmouth pretty boy who spends all of his money on his face?
She's so smug and sassy, I love it. He attacks her, but she manages to defend herself and keeps evading his attacks, and leads him across the room like a Chad. Then she encourages the other bounty hunters to fight, and says if she wins the fight, they have to fight on her side. And then she ends up fighting pretty much the entire bar, excluding an adorable cyborg man named McTee, who has cyber puppies. You know, I'd like to point out in the manga, in this scene, she just kind of kicked everyone into a big ball of cyborgs outside the bar. It was hilarious, and it definitely needs to be animated one day. That would be comedy gold. But then Doc Ito comes up and convinces them to stop fighting.
Knock it off! Or no more free repairs!
Yeah, you can see the guilt on her face just like a puppy. Then Gruishka bursts into the bar looking for Alita. Then a puppy walks up to him and barks at him, and it doesn't end well for him. He should have known. Dogs aren't safe in any anime. Fullmetal Alchemist, JoJo, Elfen Lied. Then Gruishka jumps through the floor, having Alita follow him into the underworld of Iron City. The action scene that commences is amazing, just like all the other ones. Unfortunately, she still loses this fight, and literally starts falling apart, then tries to crawl away. This scene really says a lot about her character. Even as she's falling to pieces, she doesn't give in. She's still fighting back however she can. She even manages to launch herself into the air with one hand and hurt one of his eyes, then uses the movie's one F-bomb, and I'd say that scene deserved it. Definitely one of the most bad butt scenes I have ever seen. Thankfully, Hugo, McTeague, and Ito all come to help out, scaring Gruishka away. Then Ito brings Alita back home. We cut to Alita with her armed berserker body. What? Who would have thought that was gonna happen, man? And we skip to an adorable little scene where she pecks him on the cheek. Then she goes to test out her new body. Alright, you don't have to flex, Alita. And here's some adorable Alita and Ito cuddles. Later, Alita runs across the rooftops, Batman style, and runs into love interest boy, Hugo. And they have a romantic scene where they have an obligatory kiss. Honestly, it would be nice if more female heroes didn't have romantic interests, but at least this one serves a purpose to develop her character more. Even though she's a powerful and strong cyborg, she's still innocent and emotionally vulnerable, as well as too trusting. It's also probably fan service, since they didn't properly kiss in the manga. They only kissed once with Alita initiating it. Later, we go to Alita getting ready for a motorball match. Turns out Ito, like the Chad daddy is, even made her some skates. While Hugo's on the way to the match, he runs into Tanji, who is scrapping some cyber parts, and tries to tell him to stop. The two of them end up getting into an argument, which escalates into a fight. And just so happens to overhear the two. He then unalives the jacked cyborg and frames Hugo for his murder, while Tanji stands up for him. Fortunately, he didn't stand a chance and gets kinda sliced in two. This leads to a chase scene where Hugo's escaping. Back to Alita, the motorball match is about to begin. It turns out the game is a setup, and that the other motorballers are actually bounty hunters hired to capture her.
The game was rigged from the start.
Soon enough, the game begins, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not alone when I say that, despite not being a sports fan whatsoever. I would gladly watch more of this cyberpunk game, which is basically a mixture of battle royale, roller derby, and basketball, but with cyborgs. Despite all the CGI in the scene, it still manages to feel pretty solid and engaging. It's a big reason why the movie is best experienced in high quality. Definitely one of the most exciting and unique fighting scenes I've ever seen in a sci-fi film. On the other hand, Motorball wasn't originally in the manga volumes or OVA that the movie's based on. It actually comes from the third volume, which they could have probably saved for the sequel, but considering how long we've been waiting for one, I understand why they might have gone all out. Anyway, all of the cyborgs go kneel on the track, closing in on Alita. Of course, she uses all that she can from her surroundings to fight the other cyborgs, including the cyborgs themselves. In the midst of the pursuit, Hugo calls Allie and tells her that Saban is trying to
Unalive him.
He tells her he's at the church, and she starts racing off the track to his rescue, with the hired hunter warrior still chasing her. With Hugo still parkouring and evading through Iron City, Alita, how do we say this in a PG way? She takes care of the rest in a rather gruesome fashion. Just when Zapan finally finds Hugo and is about to attack him, Alita rushes in, grabs his weapon, and yeets him away. She then rushes to his aid and realizes that he really does have a bounty on him for murder. He tries to reason with her, explaining that he never unalived anyone, but instead would take cyborg parts and sell them for credit. Zapan tells her to let him do his job and finish him off, but Alita says she'll take the bounty for herself. So Zapan tries to see if she can do it, and decides to make it easier for her by impaling her BF through a stump. As the Centurion approaches, Alita carries Hugo into the church and tries to come up with a plan to save him. And I have to say that, as always, Rosa Salazar's performance might make you tear up, even if you do not care for love interest boy TM. Say what you will about his character, I honestly think they made him pretty bland in this adaptation, but he's basically used as a plot device anyway, just to show how selfless and innocent Alita is. As his life is fading away in her arms, she even says that she would gladly give up her life if it meant he could live. Heck, it's even enough to convince Sharon to have a heart again and help to, convincing Alita to behead him and connect him to his heart so his brain stays alive, while covering him in his jacket. While Hugo's in her arms, Alita shows the bounty hunters his head and claims the bounty for herself, leaving Zapan in disbelief. However, he suspects she's up to something and finds out about her little trick. So Zapan tries to steal her bounty, which is against factory law, leading Alita to slice his face off in quite quite an amusing, albeit disturbing scene, which Alita looks at in disgust. Next, we return to Doc Ito's place, where the doctor's been working on giving Hugo a cybernetic body. Luckily enough, Hugo is stable and has had no brain damage after the incident. Alita tries to cope and ends up blaming herself. Ito tells her not to do so. She responds by saying, "Thank you, Father." Oh, it's totally worth it. I gotta admit, in this movie, Ito is a much better father figure than the manga. Like, yeah, he's still protective, and at first he doesn't want her to be a warrior. He just wants her to stay his little girl. But hey, at least in this version, he didn't name her after a dead cat. So, now that he's got a cyber body, he should be alright and they'll live happily ever after, right? Right? Next, Alita heads to the factory, which some people pointed out has the same symbol as the chocolate she ate earlier. I mean, I guess the chocolate was made by the factory too. I mean, hey, at least they have variety. But anyway, Alita heads to the factory and looks for Vector. The Centurions sense her violent intent and tell her to surrender her weapon. When she refuses, they open fire, starting an epic Star Wars-esque action sequence, which she obviously needs to see for herself. While Vector's seeing if anyone's gotten her, she brings herself to him in the form of a cowabunga through the ceiling. And he's rightfully spooked. Rorishka pops in and attacks Alita with one of his appendages. However, thanks to her new body, she easily regenerates and heals up her wound. The two go into their final battle, and who would know, Alita wins and slices him like butter. With Karishka now unalive, Alita interrogates Vector, or rather Nova, who is always watching and can easily take control of Vector. Nova goes on to boast about how he's up and all and chilling. He threatens both Ito and Hugo and admits that the only way he can enjoy his immortality is by watching others pass away. With that, Alita stabs Vector, to which Nova reacts indifferently.
Well, that looks fatal.
He's kind of funny, to be honest. Vector now unalived, Ito calls Alita and warns her that Hugo's on his way to Zone after being pursued by factory enforcers. In the next scene, Hugo uses his cyborg body to climb up the transportation pipes to Zone. Alita soon chases him and tries to persuade him to stop and come back home with him, telling him that even if he has nowhere to go along with the bounty on his head, they can figure it out together. He's refusing, however. Honestly, I don't see how when she has such big, sad puppy eyes. I mean, look at her. Unfortunately, Hugo accepts her pleas too late, as Nova has already sent down spinning wheels of death. He tries to jump over it, only to end up shredded into pieces and fall over the edge. Alita, however, easily evades the attack and dives after Hugo, barely catching him in time. They stay there, stunned for a moment, as they look at the city below. Even as Hugo's body continues to fall apart, Alita tries to lift them up over the pipe, and oh gosh, honestly, this scene is powerful. Alita tries with utmost desperation to save the love of her life, forgiving him for his mistakes and trying to save him. The words Battle Angel could not suit her more. Even if you're like me and don't like Hugo, Rosa's acting shines through once again. It really makes you feel every emotion Alita is in that moment. You can hear the pain in her voice and you will cry along with her. I know I sobbed like a baby when I watched it in theaters. Hugo then tells her thank you for saving him one last time and falls to the city below. We reach the final scene at the motorball stadium. After some months have passed, we see Alita preparing for a motorball match, now having the chance to become final champion. She looks in the mirror with tears in her eyes, and when the tear falls, she slices it in two with her blade, symbolizing her trying to move on from her grief. And afterwards, she rolls out to the stadium, with the audience cheering her name, and raises her sword to the sky, giving a challenge to the theater watching them all from above, Nova. And then the credits roll. You can really tell by that final scene that the people behind this movie expected, or at least hoped that they would get that same reaction from the audience. And for the few in America who did watch it, it was the same reaction. Unfortunately though, it didn't reach the blockbuster highs that the likes of, say, Marvel or Star Wars would. It seems confusing how, with big names such as James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez attached. So what the heck happened? Well, there are a few possibilities. While Alita is a fairly beloved classic in the manga and cyberpunk genres, it's much more popular in the West than in Japan. After watching the OVA, Rusty Angel, some watchers complained that Alita wasn't cute enough, or that it didn't have enough fan service, which, if you do not know, fan service is something done in anime to sexualize a character and sell viewers a fantasy. So while the manga was fairly popular, it is nowhere near as well known as big names today like Attack on Titan, Bleach, or Naruto, for example. That and the marketing team for Alita didn't do the best job of selling the concept to the masses. You might remember all the memes from like 2018. Yeah, sadly, that's what people mainly remember Alita for, even though the majority of people reviewing it said they got used to the eyes after like a couple minutes. Now, could Alita have done better if the directing stayed under Cameron? I think so. That isn't to say it failed, however. Still possible that Alita broke even, considering its modest budget. The film still ended up selling an estimated $24 million worth of copies. It also ended up in streaming services such as HBO Max and Disney Plus before. Also, John Landau and Robert Rodriguez are still interested in making the movie after 4 years after release. After success of James Cameron's Avatar sequel and Rodriguez's Mandalorian season, we definitely have more hope of getting it. All in all, this movie's fairly entertaining, has a fantastic lead, great actors, some lovely synthwave cyberpunk music, and some amazing action that really makes you feel like you're watching an anime in real life. However, there isn't to say there aren't a few flaws, but only like two. One is that, as I've stated before, there are a couple characters that could have been made more interesting. These being Hugo and Gruishka. They could have delved more into their tragic backstories, giving us more sympathy for both characters and more complexity to their personalities. But I can also understand why they may have avoided that, considering its already lengthy runtime. Another issue is just how much material they crammed into it. Now, honestly, it doesn't really bother me, but there are some things they really could have saved for the sequel, like a motorball. But I can also see why they go ahead and add it in case there weren't gonna be sequels. In conclusion, I would highly recommend you watch this. Maybe not with the kids necessarily, as it is a bit more mature than Marvel movies, but it definitely has some themes in there that could be enjoyed with friends and family. Despite its 2.5-hour length, trust me, it will not feel that long at all. Thanks to its captivating characters, immersive environment, fast-paced anime action, and heartfelt coming-of-age story. So that's the end of this review video. Thank you so much for watching, cool cats. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment below. So what did you think of this? Do you like this format? Are there any movies or anime you want me to look at in the future? Just let me know in the comments below. These things will tell the almighty YouTube algorithm to show my content to more people and help my content grow. I also want to give a shout out to my Ko-Fi supporters, Player One Dylan and a Peppy Platypus. Thank you so much for your support. I am sorry this took so long. If you would like to help me out and see some behind the scenes stuff, feel free to check out my Ko-Fi in the links below. Also, please be sure to check out my Twitch and follow it so you'll be notified when I go live. Have a great day, and I hope you come back to the Cool Cat